Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Jordan Cameron back with another video, and today we're going to continue to talk about our thesis about the biggest blow-off top in crypto history, followed by the biggest market crash in crypto history. So if you enjoyed today's video, make sure you smack the like button, subscribe to the channel. We're getting a little dip right now, guys, and I titled the video, "This is your last chance," because I do believe that the pullback that we are currently seeing, albeit not really a big pullback for Bitcoin and really not that big of a pullback for Ethereum just yet. I do believe that this dip that we're going to get at the current moment will be your last chance to accumulate anything that you really wanted to accumulate, whether we continue lower from here or not, before we go on this blow off top. So let's jump on into it. So what we're seeing right now is simply Bitcoin, once again, just continuing to get rejected from its previous all-time high. Not anything to be completely concerned about. And honestly, Bitcoin just forming a little range at the previous all-time high, up here at the previous all-time high, right? So it's not really anything to be concerned about, guys. If we go back over here to October 2024, you can see that we did have a similar type of thing here, about a 9% pullback. And this little consolidation right here before we were actually able to get into all-time highs. So consolidation for Bitcoin at the previous all-time high. And, when we come over here to our total market cap chart, we continue to discuss that. Once again, we are still getting rejected from that weekly close all-time high. So what we're still expecting, guys, is after this correction is done, that this market's going to full send. I really do think that this pullback you're getting right now is to be taken advantage of, and to make sure that you guys are buying the red and not buying the bounce. Okay, so when this market does bounce, everyone's going to believe, but it's when the market's red and then when the market's going down is when you want to ultimately be looking at buying whatever you want to be buying, right? So I do think that this dip that we're currently getting, especially in the altcoin market, though I do believe it probably goes slightly lower than we currently are at the moment. I do believe that this dip, when it's all said and done, if we actually go over here to our altcoin chart and just take a look at our, we'll go back to our total market cap chart, but if we go over here to our altcoin chart on the daily, and I guess we can start with the weekly here. Obviously, if you guys are new to the channel, right, we're looking at this as being one giant rising wedge, which ultimately is a bearish pattern, by the way, but we are looking for this to go up into the top of the wedge first. Ultimately, a giant rising wedge is a bearish pattern. We're looking for this to break to the downside eventually. But if we actually take a look, we know that this support right here, back from 2020, where we've gotten a bounce there, we got a bounce there, a bounce there, and a bounce there. Each of our big impulses on the altcoin market was every time that we bounced off that trend line. So if we kind of zoom back in to this, right, theoretically, right, and I'm not saying we will, it is what it is. We can't really control what the altcoins do in the short term, right? Until Bitcoin does break into that price discovery point, we are going to continue to expect the altcoins to chop around and not really do much, which they really haven't done much since February, right? So ultimately, we could still get, this is the total 3 chart, this is the total market cap excluding Bitcoin, ETH, and stablecoins. We could still get this theoretically retrace all the way back down to the, right, upward sloping trend line, right, all the way back down to the bottom of our rising wedge before it bounces again and comes back up, right? If we actually look down here in 2023, we had multiple touch points down here, right? Before we were ultimately, the market was so boring, everyone got boarded out before ultimately the altcoin market, right after everyone was bored, went on a 236% move to the upside. And over here even was a more choppy uptrend, which we're kind of seeing right now for the altcoin market. I know it feels like the altcoins aren't really doing much, but we have kind of seen a more of a choppy uptrend here, similar to over here in 2024. We can continue to just chop around in here, guys, for the next few weeks. But ultimately, like I said, I do think this is going to be the final dip, whether we do go slightly lower or sideways a little bit longer. I do think this is the final dip before Valhalla for the altcoin market. And ultimately, also, Bitcoin pushes into new all-time highs as we continue to look at why we expect this, right? Why do we expect this? Why is this total market cap thesis, which we've been discussing since the bottom, okay? It's not just something we're talking about now. Why has this been the thesis since Bitcoin was all the way over here at 70, 80K in February and March while everyone else was screaming tariffs. Why was that our thesis that Bitcoin was going to go into new all-time highs? Well, sorry guys, I've been kind of sick the last few days. I had a little frog in my throat, unfortunately, and no one likes to have a frog in their throat, okay? But if we come back over here, why are we expecting Bitcoin to continue up, right? Why are we not expecting a double top? And let's prove it on the charts, right? Well, we're going to start with our stablecoin dominance chart. Just to remind you guys, we're only halfway through our macro range. This is our 2023 and 2024 stablecoin dominance range. And what we're ultimately expecting here is this to come all the way back down to the bottom of the range towards that 5% dominance. Excuse me, guys. And ultimately what we're seeing right now is we're only halfway through the range, right? And we're seeing kind of a consolidation here on USDT dominance, which ultimately we get consolidation on USDT dominance. We're going to see consolidation in crypto, right? This gets a pull back up, crypto gets a pull back down. But ultimately what we're expecting is this to come back down. And once again, for everyone who's new to the channel, what we're ultimately expecting here is this to form a giant Wyckoff accumulation schematic where this goes all the way back down to the bottom of the range, which inversely causes the total market cap chart to get a pump up to the 4236 Fibonacci, which we've talked about countless times in previous videos. We're not going to go too into it today. And then ultimately, this to get a massive impulse to the upside, a spring phase to the upside, which would be the start of ultimately the bubble pop or the bear market for the cryptocurrency market, right? So a giant Wyckoff accumulation, which is a bullish pattern for the stablecoin market, which ultimately ends up being a rising wedge for the cryptocurrency market over a, we're talking, almost an 8-year span here, right? So stablecoin dominance only at the bottom of the middle of the range. We are expecting this to continue back down to the bottom of the range, just like it did in 2023 and it did in 2024. Man, the frog just won't get out, guys. All right, so what else do we have, right? What else do we have in the charts that we can look at to say, okay, we are getting a pullback right now, but we're still confident the market's going significantly higher. Still expect that we're going to see a blow off top for the cryptocurrency market. Well, we actually go over here to, once again, global liquidity. Once again, you guys can see Bitcoin has followed global liquidity since all the way back over here. Well, really back since 2022, but really correlated since about 2024 or early 2024. You guys can see when global liquidity rises, Bitcoin rises on a 3-month lag. It gets a consolidation, Bitcoin gets a consolidation, right? Up again in 2024, global liquidity goes up, Bitcoin goes up. Global liquidity gets a pullback, Bitcoin gets a pullback. And you can see we're right about here right now, okay? We kind of move this slightly down, we move this slightly down. You guys can see that we are currently right here. We're exactly right where we should be on global liquidity. And you can see that global liquidity continues to move up. So what we're expecting is, obviously Bitcoin's getting a pullback at the current moment. What we're expecting is when this pullback is done, we're going to continue to see Bitcoin absolutely impulse to the upside. And we're not going to get caught up in the short-term price movements, which many people did during the Trump versus Elon saga versus many people did in the tariff saga. And both times they got caught up in that. They ended up being wrong. Market impulsed higher. Okay. So we got Bitcoin right now at 104,739. We're currently dropping as the video is going on. And this is perfect. So for anyone who has not had the opportunity or missed the initial impulse because you were scared of the tariffs, I do believe that this is your last opportunity to pick up the things that you want to pick up before this market absolutely impulses to the upside. Okay, we could continue to see a little chop going into next week. We obviously have FOMC going into next week. We could continue to see the market chop until maybe the end of next week into 2 weeks. But ultimately, what's our thesis? Bitcoin goes higher. Bitcoin's still in an uptrend, despite the fact that we're seeing resistance at the most obvious resistance point, right? And total market cap, we're expecting it to go higher, which total market cap still in a weekly uptrend, even though it's seeing resistance at the most obvious resistance, right? Nothing we haven't expected, nothing we haven't really been talking about for the last few weeks. And ultimately, not much has really changed, and I don't really have much new to talk about today. As I have a frog in my throat. That's about the only thing new that I have to talk about today. So Once again, we kind of look, market got into greed again. That's fine. I guarantee you if Bitcoin continues down, we're going to be in fear probably tomorrow. When I'm making a video, the next video, we're probably going to be in fear, which is perfect. We want to buy in fear, okay? And ultimately, our Coinbase app ranking is currently at a 400, right? Still no new people interested in the crypto. And that is absolutely what I want to see. I want to see the retail market bored and then the people in crypto fearful. So if we get another dip into fear, I think that's an opportunity for people to add to their bags if they haven't already. But once again, make sure you're only buying the red, not buying the retraces back up. And once again, only buying when the fear and greed index in fear or extreme fear. Okay, that's the video today, guys, right? Just going to make it nice, short, and sweet. Not really too much else to add. Our thesis continues to play out. Okay, we're getting a short-term pullback, and I do believe that this is the last chance for, really the last opportunity for people who haven't had the opportunity to buy the dip, on your favorite coins, all right, before we get sent to Valhalla, all right? So I'll see you guys in the next video. If you enjoyed today's shorter video, just shorter update, right, just to keep you guys updated, let me know in the comment section. Give me a like, give me a subscribe, and we're at 88,000. Let's continue to push towards 100K by the end of the year. You guys are the best. Catch you guys in the next video. It's been your boy, Jordan Cameron. I'm out.